G'day and welcome. So let me apologise first for the people that are waiting on motorcycles and Fords and all this sort of stuff. We've got an issue with the cars in that I've got to get a daily going. So we've got this dark blue one here that we drove home from Mickleham. Drove very well. It's got some consumables that are warm, but it doesn't matter very much. We can change all those. Pulled it apart a bit today and had a good look at what we've got and what we need to change over to make it into something that I kind of like. The colour, don't like the colour much on that car. It is actually a nice colour on a bigger car or something, but on that little thing I'd like something a bit brighter. So I'm a bit wishy-washy about the colour. These things are painted all inside the shell and out as well. So there's an awful lot of work involved in painting them as opposed to leaving it that colour and maybe dolling it up a bit. I'm not really sure. So I was also in two minds about the red car. We've got two 98s here which are going to go, and there's a photograph I'll flick to shortly, and that shows one wrecking yard in New South Wales that's got probably 60 of them in a pile that have sort of had the roofs caved in with a dozer and they're all sort of stacked on top of each other. That's going to be a story at a lot of wrecking yards, I would think, or a lot of holding yards before they go off to be crushed. Toyota have given a pretty good amount of money for them to a lot of people. Some people have walked away with $3,500, $4 grand for really mid ones, where other people are sort of around $1,000 or $1,500. It's a 22-year-old car. Do you know what I mean? So you're never going to get millions of bucks for them. You could replace them, I guess, with like an AE112 Corolla or something along those lines. But the Takata thing, it could unfold with many, many more cars of similar age. So that's the reason I decided to go through all this trouble to get it the way I want. It's a pre-airbag car by me, so it is what it is. There's not much I can do. So I'm deliberating about the colour and what to do with the red one. Given that Toyota have taken the other ones and brought them back, they're being wrecked as complete cars, so people aren't able to get parts from them. So I might make the red car available for parts, and I'll probably just end up giving them away once I've taken what I want. So this is kind of, I've done Starlet videos and they're not really all that popular. The series I did was all on the pale blue one when I got that and got it running. I've only been driving that for, I don't know, 2 years. I don't know what it's been. Done about 18,000 Ks in it and it's been perfect, but I've got to do it again because that's the law. You know, we can't keep that going on the roads. So there's not much else I can do. That's just how it is. So that being said, I hope you enjoy. Alright, let the games begin. Awesome. Whoa. I nearly ran into the camera. Right, dual Starlies. This one, look, apologies to the people that are waiting on the Ford stuff. I just have to get my daily sorted. I can't do much about this. This was pretty much unforeseen. This is a reasonably low mileage car with power steering. This is a reasonably high mileage car without. Now this made a terrible noise. This is the one we picked up. The idler for the aircon's fine, but it sounds terrible. So I've taken the belt off. We'll start them up because I've been pulling stuff out of here too. Am I in gear? We're not in gear. Where's the key? There's the key. This should be quiet. Oh, I'll have to turn the wipers off. Perfect. No more noises. And we're going to start this guy up because I'm going to do compression tests. Is this in gear? Oh, that's out of gear. Now, the deal is, this is an early car, and the reason I've been pulling bits and pieces off, the steering wheel is still interchange, but the column's different, completely different. I don't want to hang around here too long with the car running, but this is a 98 column. It's a 98 power steering column. So the manual steered cars are the same up to that joint there, then they have a longer sort of shaft, if you like. Same configuration, but just a bit longer because the power steering rack's taller. This is the same on 96, 97, or at least it looks so, but this is a lot narrower. The 96, 97 has a much wider flange at the top. The crash bar which this mounts to is different, and so are the pedals, at least the pedal mounts. Now, what I'm going to do with this, I've taken bits and pieces out of it, like the power mirrors and that sort of stuff. It's got the looms down there, what looks like the looms for the doors. There's no plug behind here, unless it's tied up somewhere, I can't find it. And there's not a plug for the passenger seatbelt warning. So, with taking the dash out and changing over the crash bar, which you can see in there, it might just be easier putting a 98 loom in, I'm not sure. But we'll let these run for a moment, and I'll start doing a compression test. Compressed air warning. Even though there's boots on here, I did see some muck come out there. You can see from that one. Oops, that wasn't even that tight. But I've seen lots and lots of times people take them out with a magnet and then dropping new ones in. First thing is just a piece of old fuel hose, that's 10mm stuff. It'll just fit over the plug and you can undo it. I think Toyota actually have a service tool that does the same thing. Preferably something straight so they don't cross thread it. That way, you put the new plug in here. Oops, that's hot. Oh, and yeah, start it up again. I'll just have to straighten it. I might leave it in the sun, but that's the best way of taking them out. Thing's rocking some great compressions. Got 220 and 225 so far. I'll just try that. Hang on a minute. Disconnected the distributor so we don't get spark. What's this one? 210, 20, that's 230. They're awfully high. Maybe it's carboned up. I doubt it. This thing went well. This thing went really well. So I'll try that. That sounded pretty healthy too. What does this one say? Struth, 230 again. That's brilliant. It doesn't really matter what they are, as long as they're staying within, say, 10% of each other. So, yeah, 220 to 230, 10% of 230 is 23. So it's, 5%. And that's sound. That's really good. I'm just going to check the other car and we'll compare notes. Right, well the values of 2 and 3 are the same in both. 225 and 230. This one dipped to 210, oops, on number 1. Where is that? 220. The kicker is this has done 100,000 more Ks. This has done almost 300,000. And yeah, it speaks volumes what these cars are like. That's why I love them. That's why I'm going to all this trouble to get another one, because you pick them up for $500. I paid more than that for this because I actually wanted it, and there's a few selling really quickly at the moment because I think people are panicking about all the 98s and 99s getting scrapped. But you pick these things up for $500 and you're guaranteed another 100,000 Ks out of them with just minimal, just consumables really, tyres and screens and stuff like that. So that actually tests better. Oil pressure test to be good. I haven't got an oil pressure gauge here, I don't think. But yeah, it's all food for thought. But again, it's gone into 220, it was at 225 a second ago, so that's just as good. So we'll keep this one, just on the premise that it's got less Ks and it's a bit newer. So 225, 225, 230, 225, and that's 220. So they're both brilliant. They're both consistent. There's nothing wrong with them. So I plug the plugs in and I'll just burn off all the fuel I've been injecting. Plug the distributors back in, which I've taken off. All the wires, even though they're a different year with different wiring loom, the wire conductors are all the same colour, so I think it's just to do with internal electrics and airbags. That's the only reason I changed them. Still pulling these out. I've just unplugged a whole lot of stuff here. This one we pulled the bonnet off, and I'm going to try and cheat. I'm going to try and leave the drive shafts on the transmission when I take that out. It just means that I don't have to drain them and fill them with oil and all that sort of stuff. Looking at the unions though, they're absolutely beautiful. This was healthy, very, very healthy. But anyway, I've got most of the looms just on the alternator and the starter. Just going to undo those. Or the starter motor ones actually, the alternator one's done. Might be easy getting to it from underneath. Look at that. Oh, that's so cactus. But it's still got gas in it, so I'm just going to pull the compressor off and tie it up here. Right. I've tried to do something stupid here by lifting or lower the engine, take the gearbox out, and then lift the engine out. But in leaving the gearbox mounts there, or the drive shafts, I've just created a whole bunch of extra work for myself, which I shouldn't have had to do, because basically I was stupid. That's leaking fuel. I've broken that off. Yeah, I think it's all clear. Got the heater hoses. Yep. The wires are all off. Yeah, you come straight out. Oh well. I think next time I'll do it a bit differently. Because this wasn't very successful. Everything's in the way. Oh, it took a big wee. I'm going to call that unsuccessful because it took too long. Well, I lied about the amount of time I thought it would take to get these out. This was hell because I tried to cheat and left the drive shafts on. Probably a bit of a rookie mistake with the front wheel drive, but I just thought it'd be easier because I wouldn't have to drain the gearbox. Ended up being a pain. I actually did it in the wrong order anyway, so hopefully the other one's a bit easier. This way it's easy to get to the rack, and I'll just leave it in this state. I'll just put the lower ball joints back on the lower control arms and pop the wheels on. I can wheel it around. But there we go. She's out. But for now, that's not too bad. The steering rack, the rack boot's destroyed on this side. CV joints are a little bit how you're going. But it doesn't matter. This can sit, you know. The unions on the heater are good. They're not rusted out or anything. It's all as expected. It just took a bit longer than I thought. The easiest way to do it, if it didn't have air conditioning gas, I'd take the evaporator out and I just use the crane to pick it up, pick the front of the car up by the front cross member and just drop the engine and gearbox on the ground and lift the car. That would be the easiest way to do it, I would think. And just cart the engine out that way. But no, had to do it this way, which was slow. Okay, I got Rosie with me. This is the second time because the first time I started talking, the thing wasn't recording. All right, Rosie. Grandma bought that when the red car was smashed into by a bike, right? Mm-hmm. I was going to take the engine out and use it because it's less mileage than this one. Right, so it's been around the world less.
Yep.
And the power steering was out of the red car that was written off too, and I wanted that. But the problem is, they're a pig to get out. But not just that, this one here seems to be in better condition, although it's done more miles. So about the only thing, and the other problem is, right, see these pits here?
Yeah.
That's the steering, and that's a pig to get to. Oh, I'm sweating. And I don't know if it's worth lying around in a wreckers today. It's 32 degrees, and I just can't be bothered. So what I'm thinking of doing is putting this one back together and cutting it loose. Can you see any problem with that?
No.
Would you take anything out of it? Like, I wanted to originally...
What? No, hold on. The thing that you want to take out is all the things in the blue Starly, wasn't it?
Yeah, not the red one, yeah. But this one has a later trim, and I like that trim better. But, I mean, if we get like $1,200 back for this, I can buy a trim a lot cheaper than that, right? Mm-hmm. The only thing I need for power steering is I need a pump and a high pressure line. That's the only thing I haven't got. But I don't know. I just don't think it's worth keeping the engine. It's
Well,
not
if
as...
the other one's stronger, then don't bother.
No, I know. We'll see. Yeah, but it's done 100,000 k's more. But the engine in the blue one's particularly good.
Yeah,
But
then keep that
keep that one, yeah, I know. And it's got new drive shaft, it's got clutch, it's got everything in it. But I wanted to keep driving it until I had this one ready. So what I reckon... What do you think of this? Have you settled on a colour yet?
Okay, well, first of all, there's no engine in here.
No, I know, but we've got to
think
paint it, Rose.
Oh, right. Forgot about
This body's
that.
in immaculate nick too. Like, there's just minimal battery acid damage and all this sort of stuff. So, this is what I want to know. Right? This is what I want to know. I was going to paint the engine bay and the door jambs, take the doors off, paint inside the jambs, all this, put it back so it's still dark blue on the outside with bits of whatever colour hanging through, and then paint the whole car in one bit.
Yeah.
It's just going to be easier and more effective to do that.
Yeah.
Have you settled on a colour? Do you have any idea about the colour?
Well, I thought we settled for the pink.
We can do. Yeah.
Because
Well, I wanted it bright.
something bright, and you know a lot about, colours.
Well, no, a little bit, but not a lot.
Well, you know what's more silvery and what's more brighter and all that. So
Well, more visible, yeah.
that's why you have to go for the brightest colour with Starlies.
This has better front suspension and brakes. I might heave the struts out of that. That's the suspension-y bouncy bits, right? That's these bits here. See the bit hanging down there?
Yeah.
With the brakes on it?
Yeah.
They look like arse. So I reckon what we'll do is we'll take the other ones off the red car. There's another one that a guy knows of. That's an aqua colour too. Because I can still make up two of the things with all the parts I've got.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, look, suck it and see. It's a bit warm out here, so when the sun comes up, you can give us a hand if you want. How are you going? Aren't you going to see your friends today?
No.
Hmm?
No. There's Baz mum cancelled. I'm kidding.
So I'm just sort of going around picking the best of bits and pieces. This one has a better cigarette lighter, but the console's broken there, where that one's not. But this one has a hole down below the cigarette lighter, so I'll change that panel out. And just whatever's the worst of the bits goes back in the red car. And that way we can, discard it. And I know the boot mat, for example, is a lot better. That should just lift out. We just undo that with those two, change that out. That's the worst of the two cigarette lighters. That's the better, but that's the better console. Interestingly, these gear boots just click in. This is the worst of them, going back into this car. They sort of sit in there. And they've never been known to come out, so they're really actually quite good, the way they work. There's a wire in it, if you know what I mean. But this one's got a couple of little tears in it. So, yeah, I've just been swapping everything that I wanted. That's got the old radiator in it. That's a genuine Toyota one. It's got a great cap, but it doesn't fit on the other one. But the other one's a newer one. It's only about 10 years old, so I've decided to keep that one. It's an aluminium one. What's that, a copper, I suppose? Probably should keep the copper one, the genuine one. So which is better? Oh, hang on. Yeah, that one's definitely better. Is that the good one? Yeah, let's put this back in here. So, yeah. It's quite fun. I don't mind doing this sort of thing. Oops. It's a bit of a pain really, because I'm just happy with the blue car and I shouldn't have to replace everything, but it's just a case of what do you do. We'll hang on to this one. It's got the better boot on it, the big cigarette lighter, hasn't got a hole in it either. Got a bunch of ashtrays, other bits and pieces. So yeah, just going through it all, making sure it's all good. We'll end up with another nice car, even another nice couple of cars. Because I've got so much stuff here. The only thing I need to make a second car, if I wanted to, was a power steering pump and a high pressure line. They're the only two parts. Ashtray. We've got gear knobs here. This one, that's got all its patterns still on it, but it's dirty. So I might go and clean these up and just see what's best. Just hang on to it and see how we go. Alright, I'm going to pop these lights out. The other one was dull, the driver's one was dull, and I've seen several like that. Oh, hang on, wrong one. Hang on, are you going to come off? Come on, what are you doing? That's a good boy. Alright, a couple of things. I had a visit from Dave yesterday, and I told him I really don't like the colour. Now, it is drab, yeah? The easiest way of doing this is to buy a litre of this dark blue, repaint the tops of the guards, or the top of that guard, and the roof, and blend it in down the C-pillar. And Dave suggested clearing it with metal flake in it to give it a lift, and I think that's a really good idea. I'm going to pull this apart. I pulled that cover off there to have a look at the steering knuckle to see if it was interchangeable with a 98, but I don't think it matters much. But the thing that I'm sort of concerned about a bit is the wiring loom. It's completely different. And there's a few things this car has to have. It has to have power steering, central locking, power mirrors, tacho dash. They're the things I want. Because it's just a much more a nicer car to drive. Now, there's not an awful lot in terms of ratio difference between the manual and power steering, so on the road you never notice it. But when you're parking, you do. It's quite heavy. It's only 1.3 litres, so it's not that heavy. But yeah, if I can improve it, I will. I'm going to pull the front guards off and the bumper, and we'll talk a little bit about that loom. Pull this gearbox out of the way. I might actually use the gearbox. Whoa. I might use the gearbox out of the other car. I don't know. We'll just suck it and see. Turn you around. And we'll take the front bar off. It's just a shame about this because I was really happy with the other car and we'd already done it up and got it all finished. And now we're getting to the point where we're not going to be able to drive it. So I want this one to be a really, really good second, if you know what I mean. Sweet. Alright, these are really well thought out, these cars. They're so good. That should just come off. Does it just come off, does it? Yep, that comes off. I'm just going to do the other bits and off she comes. I thought I'd spend more energy on pulling panels and stuff off in this video. In the other ones, the Ford ones, we're doing lots of engine stuff. And this bumper should give up now. It's just held on basically with large self-tappers and 6mm bolts. So from memory, it's been a while since I pulled one off, but I'm tipping it should give up. Come on, out you get. Did I get that off? Yeah, I got that off. Look at it, it's very flimsy. So I'll chuck this in the trailer. The other thing with this car is that by doing it this way, I reckon it's going to be better for people that are missing out on parts. So that photo I showed you of all the starlets on the wrecking pile means that no one's got access to those spare parts. And I reckon we're going to have a bunch of parts left over here, and I'll just advertise them as free to good home, because it helps other people, you know what I mean? I'm not interested in a huge amount of financial gain, although I will keep many of them, but I'll have a spare 5-speed gearbox, and I'll have the 4 doors off the red one, and various trim things and that sort of stuff, dash clusters and some wiring and bits and pieces like that. But anyway, look, I'm going to take those guards off now. I'll just put these in a bag and tag. I'm always saying this to the kids at school. You pull an engine apart, you bag and tag. So I've got a bag over here. But yeah, I basically want a 99 or 98, 99 replica in a 96, 97 body. That's what I'm shooting for because I was very happy with the other ones. What have we got? We've got a bolt here. Got a bunch of them up in the usual place up here, which is quite straightforward and easy. And I think there's one inside the door jamb and a couple underneath. And the guards on these are very, very easy to remove. They're very flimsy. I'll just leave the middle one in and that'll come off. That's all good. But these are fantastic. You can see in here that greeny colour. I don't know if you can see from where you are. Oh, get back here. Hang on, let me just move the camera. That greeny colour is the reason these cars last forever, and it's they've got a galvanised body, so they don't rust. The only time you'll see rust on them is if you have a car that's lived at the seaside. You'll find they'll rust in here, sort of in beneath those sorts of areas there where the galvanising's been cut through on the thread. But there's such. I put paint stripper on a 96 I had, or a 97, I can't remember what it was, the silver one that I was going to do up with Charlie. And the paint came off, but the galvanising didn't. The car was outside and there was still no rust. So they're marvellous little things. Alright, Charlie's teasing me. Just going to take this off. Hopefully that comes off. Which it doesn't, because I've forgotten something. Here's the problem. Well, there's lots of pine needly things, but there's a little bolt there somewhere. There it is up there. Can you see? So, I'm just going to pull that out and take the guard off. There we go. And you can see all this cruddy stuff, but there won't be one iota of rust in there. It'll be absolutely beautiful. Because that's what these little things are like. That'll all come out. A couple of 6 more bolts. One there, and there's just one under there. Bloody hell. Look at this, bird's nest. Oops. Just move this stuff out of the way. So obviously we're getting a bit carried away, which is pretty much what I do. I always get carried away with cars. There's nothing particularly great about these things. Well, the things that are great about them you can't see. You know, their reliability and they're nice little things to drive, that sort of stuff. But I need to keep it a bit real. I'm just sort of taking stuff off while the mood strikes. And it'll give me a better idea of what I've got. And we can sort of make a game plan because I'm not convinced I want to start changing colours. Now, I actually did want to, and then I forgot how much stuff's on them. But, you know, we've got to keep it a bit more realistic. It's not a collectible, valuable car or anything like that. It's just a daily. But I do want it to look a bit safer than it does in this colour. How does that come off? Yeah, it comes off like that. Sweet. Alright, in the trailer for you. Alright, so there's a myriad of plugs. All colour coded, can only go in one way. There's an earth strap down here and there's one on the other side. Half of the loom is going to stay with the dash, the other half will be kept in the car. So I'm just going to drop the column. Hang on a minute. Oh, just loosen him off a bit. And we'll let the column fall. Oh, pardon me. And then remove the dash. I think I've got everything out. It's just a bunch of bolts basically. Oh, I can't get to that. I'll move that out of the way, I'll just bend it. Where are we? Here we go. This mounting flange on the earlier car is far wider at the top. So we'll just undo this and see what happens. Pull stuff out to it and then start asking questions when the thing doesn't work, eh? That's probably enough. Oh, let's take the rest out. We'll take it out and let it drop on the seat. Oops. It's just an exercise in Meccano, this thing. It's bloody lovely. Yeah, compared to a Falcon or a Holden, these are just basic. But that's the Japanese for you. Oops. Then you get on the floor. Look at that. Absolutely great. So, this should just come off. I think from memory, oh yeah, there are clips at the top. Okay, that's nice. Just a moment. Oh, damn. Heater cable. Oh, damn. Hang on. Oh, no, it's not that. What is it? What's holding it? What is holding it? Is the glue. There's a bunch of plugs I've forgotten about under here. Hang on, Suze. I forgot about these guys. There's a whole bunch of them. This is where the computer is for the airbag. And it's completely different to the 98 because they don't have, these ones don't have the thing. I'm just going to undo all these. There's a bunch of them. Sweet. All good. Right, there's our dash with half of the loom stuck in there. Alright, let's have a look in the car. I've got to take these bits off. They're going straight in the trash. And other bits and pieces. Now, Starley with no dash. Oh gosh. Right, so as far as I'm aware, the heater box, air conditioning, all that sort of stuff is the same. As far as I'm aware, computer's the same. I've got another two here, which we can muck around with. Now down there, where those prongs are, that's where all those block connectors are. That's all different. The airbag cars have a mount welded, spot welded to the floor, where the SRS computer sits, and the loom's completely different. That's all devoid, and that's the one, that's the big one that goes through into the engine bay. You can see there. That all comes in from this side. In the 98 model, which is why I'm flirting with the notion of changing it. I've just got to make sure all the connectors for this cluster and everything are the same. If they are, it doesn't matter, we can just leave it. It's not a problem. What I am going to change though is I'm going to change that whole crash bar here because it is different, and that's because your mounts are different for your steering column on the earlier car, and the steering column is different, so it won't fit the power steering. There are two types of power steering on these. There's what they call the airbag type and the non-airbag type, but we're going to use a 98 column and fit the ladder power steering to it. But if I can keep the wiring, I will. It won't bother me. The pedal mounts are different as well. They're mounted all differently, and we'll have a look at that when we take them out and fit them in this vehicle. But you can see here, like it's all blue. All the inside of the shell is painted on these cars, and that makes a colour change exceptionally challenging. I'm just looking at that. Is that rust? No, it won't be rust. That'll just be the seam sealer. So we can take all that off and have a look, but I don't think there's too much point in it. That's just all soundproofing. You can see behind there, the original colour actually does look quite nice, but once it gets a bit of age in it, it's very dull. So I'm going to call it quits there. All I've got to do really is just take the seats out and the carpet. The carpet can go in the bin. I'll do that tomorrow, and then I can wash the floor and just clean everything up and get it ready to change all this dash over, all that stuff there with the pedal assemblies and everything. Anyway, I thought you might enjoy that. Hopefully you did. If not, we won't be too long before we're on the other projects, the Ford and all that sort of stuff. But whatever the case, take good care of yourselves, enjoy Classic, and see you around. What do you reckon? Shit. Jesus.